You're live, Pete. Start talking.
Okay. Welcome to the Gruber Company's Artificial Future podcast. I'm not seeing the screen there in front of us. That's not going to be live today, guys. So this is the AI podcast that we do every Wednesday morning. Thank you for joining us. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them. Tell us where you're coming in from, and we'll try to get to everybody's questions or comments as they come in. We are definitely open to debate, so if you're taking issue with anything that's being presented or have anything additional to add, please feel free to do so. So one of the things I wanted to open with is the chat bots are the rage these days. And if we've got an image here that we can throw up, Jesse. It's that tan-colored chat bot list of all of the various AI tools that are now becoming popular. And you know, the thing that amazed me the most about this was these chatbots and these AI tools are the rage these days. 1.5 billion people are now using these types of tools. And if you think about it, a year ago, none of this really existed, at least as far as the population was concerned. So here is a chart showing who the leaders are with AI tools. Of course, OpenAI with its Chat GPT-4 now. And we've got some runner-ups. The runner-up Bard, Claude 2. And you know what? There's another runner-up which didn't even make this publication, and it's called Grok. That's Elon's most recent announcement. And we'll talk about that here in a few minutes. And then, of course, you see some of the other tools that are available. Pretty amazing when you think about it that this is a brand new phenomena. And later on in the conversation, we're also going to talk about what kind of tools are specific to applications such as business. And that's the thing that most interests us, at least. So the other thing is we've got another image here, guys. And this one is the, hang on, I lost my place. Bear with me. And this is going to, again, reinforce the fact that human jobs will be replaced to a degree. And this particular one is the caddy image. We have a customer that lives in both New Zealand and in Puerto Rico. And he contacted me the other day and he said, you know, I like to get in a few rounds of golf every morning. And I want to show you a companion that I have that is joining me on these morning golf jaunts. And once that picture comes up, you'll see that here is yet another job that has been replaced, the job of caddy. And this little AI device will carry your clubs. It will follow you. It doesn't mix drinks yet, but I suppose it could eventually. They can build something into these. So this is a AI generated or driven caddy that will actually follow the golfer around and maybe eventually even give advice. You know, what kind of an iron should be used for that particular shot, because AI is definitely skilled in areas like this. All right, so the image behind me, by the way, was something that was generated by artificial intelligence. And what I asked for was a futuristic robotics lab with robots working on themselves. And this is what it came up with. So we'll use this as a backdrop for today's session. The thumbnail was also something similar. And the prompt that I asked for there was a warm, friendly...
You need to talk into your mic there, Pete.
All right. A warm, friendly, compassionate, humanoid-looking robot. And that's what it generated. I enjoyed the colors on both the background and the thumbnail being complementary. And we're just having fun with using AI for generating things like this. Those of you interested in doing something like this yourself, get a subscription to Midjourney, another AI tool that renders images. And the skill that's required there is in prompt engineering. That's also a new term, by the way. You have to know what to ask for and anticipate some of AI's limitations at this point or confusion. And but based on overcoming those, you'll get some pretty interesting things being generated as far as images if you're using Midjourney. So the reason that we went with this thumbnail, the humanoid robot concept, is that Tesla is apparently hiring for robotic engineers, and to the tune of 50 of them. And the most recent announcement from Tesla is that they will start selling humanoid robots by the year 2027. We've got another image there that we can pop up. And this is a competitor of Tesla's. This one is called Apollo-2. And I wanted to show you what currently is being defined as a humanoid robot. This is a company that is competing with Tesla in the robotic space, competition to Optimus. And this is a Texas-based company called Apptronic, and they launched their this robot Apollo in August of this year. It is 5.8 feet tall, pretty human, average height. Weight 160 again, pretty average, and runtime 4 hours. And of course, that depends on the battery pack. Right now, to fit the DC storage into this particular size robot, they're at about 4 hours currently, and the payload it can carry is 55 pounds. So again, pretty human tendencies here. What I find interesting is that these companies that are focused on creating robots, the question I ask is, why do they need to look like us? Why do they need to have 10 fingers, 2 eyes, a speaker for a mouth, and 2 arms, 2 legs? In one of the earlier AI podcasts, we actually were talking about an AI-generated robot. The prompt was basically create a robot that's capable of doing various things, including walking. And what it created was a very strange-looking cube with 3 legs that actually was able to meet that objective, which is walk. But the fundamental reason that these robots currently are designed and looking like us is because they have to operate within our spaces, door heights, the buildings that we live in, all designed for humans, which will end up being the most efficient design. And of course, as we get into augmentation, and we have robots in our homes, a maid, for example, or a cook or a chef. The possibilities are virtually endless. They're going to have to coexist with us in the same living spaces. So for now, it makes sense that these robot creations are pretty much mimicking us. Now, you can go outside the box here. Picture a fruit-picking robot with 20-foot arms. Be much more suited to doing the task that it was designed for, rather than having a ladder or a cherry picker. And this particular robot could walk amongst the orchard and reach up and pick whatever fruit it wants. What about a construction robot, something capable of doing what a crane would do, which is hoisting 10 to 20 tons? Again, it probably won't look like the humanoid robot that we've seen here in these 2 examples, but it would be far more efficient to have a AI-type robot that is able to do construction. And is it going to replace jobs? Well, most certainly. That crane operator is no longer necessary at that point in time. So let's talk about this Tesla robot and the job openings. So according to Elon, again, 2027 is when Optimus will be available, and they currently have 50 advertisements with the description Tesla bot in the title of these job ads. And with competitors, of course, ramping up and sometimes even being ahead of them, Tesla's getting really serious about trying to keep up at this point and ramping up its own efforts. Um, this announcement that Tesla was getting into the robotics business was first announced at the annual AI Day last year. And the commitment back then was that it would be ready to take orders within 3 to 5 years. And the expected cost of these humanoid robots that Tesla is going to produce is about less than $20,000, they were saying, so much less than a car. Um, so anyway, jobs are being listed. The roles listed, by the way, are based in Palo Alto, California at this point in time. And some of the job titles are including humanoid controls engineer, Tesla bot systems and design and integration engineers, and various other Tesla bot engineers. Looks like we have some people chiming in. Welcome, YouTube, Brian Silver. Can the caddy bot move your ball to a better lay? Yeah, I suppose if you're not watching and it's trying to do you a favor, it might be motivated to move that ball so you have an easier shot. YouTube, Martin O in Sweden, welcome across the pond. He says, good evening. Yeah, okay. He says, good evening as it is here. Sorry, my text was bouncing up and down. Then we've got Brian Silver, who is joining us from YouTube. He says, 2 reasons that the humanoid robot is an advantage. 1, replace us ergonomically, right? 2, not freaking us out. We feel they are friendly and they look like us. You know, that makes a lot of sense, actually, Brian, because the Hollywood version is these things with, missing flesh on the sides, exposing some of the mechanical portions, bright red eyes that are shining, an evil grin, and sometimes even a human skull type appearance. So yeah, the current rendition of what robots are, humanoid robots at least, are beginning to look like is far less threatening. Niels is joining us from Denmark. Welcome this morning, our morning anyway. He said, could AI help simplify car error, a car error diagnosis? You know, we're already talking about that, Niels. Putting some of this technology and putting our knowledge base out on the floor where the mechanics are. And once we get to voice recognition, then that mechanic could simply speaking to the laptop perhaps or whatever it is that is going to provide that assistance and give some visuals. What's the fix for this? And AI has a huge data set that it's going to be able to scan through and provide some helpful tips and diagnosis. We're doing that manually right now by creating a knowledge base that gets text inserted manually. He also asks, I guess we've got a camera issue here. Are we okay? All right. He says, not having to look at wiring diagrams, using test lights all over, etc., or can it not get simpler than the error codes today? It's interesting you mentioned that, Niels, because one of our, the chief engineer actually is building a Tesla Roadster switchback tester load bank. And the switchback in a Tesla Roadster is what controls windshield wiper motors, lights, backup lights, headlights, all of the visuals or anything that is 12-volt related that draws some current. So they can still use tiny little switches inside the cabin, but the switchback does all the heavy load switching using MOSFETs. Well, his tester is actually going to incorporate a Tesla Roadster kit car that he purchased at Target, I believe. And what we're going to do is put lights, we're going to put LEDs into that little kit car and have it replicate the functions from the switch pack. So we'll be able to quickly determine whether it's going to function in the larger Roadster, of course. So yeah, those are some cool concepts and cool tools that could be used. So anyway, getting back to the humanoid robot that Tesla is working on, the article says Musk said in May that the Optimus team is making excellent progress and that Tesla is will keep them update or will keep us updated. There was also a YouTube video last month, and with accompanying text that said it's now capable of self-calibrating its arms and legs. That was a major change, apparently. If you remember during that Investor Day release of the Optimus robot, they basically had to wheel this thing out, and it wasn't really capable of walking or standing on its own. And 6 months later, it was doing that and much more. So they are making progress. This particular video that they're talking about, released by Tesla, shows the robot sorting building blocks by color using its hands, vision, and the Tesla onboard neural net. And then the clip ends with Optimus doing some yoga stretches. Well, it makes sense. I mean, I think these robots are going to have to exercise, if not self-lubricate, perhaps, all of those types of things. So they say, but with some of the US-based competition already testing humanoid robots in warehouses, Tesla may have some catching up to do. And that's when they talk about Apptronic, and that was that picture that we showed earlier. And we show a picture of the Apollo image without a number attached. And sure enough, here we see one of these Apollo robots actually doing some physical work, just like a human being would do in a warehouse. There's some recent videos showing that in the Amazon warehouses, they are using robots. They don't look quite like this, so it's probably a different brand. But so the question, will jobs be replaced? Well, yes, it looks like it's already underway. Jeff Cardenas is the co-founder and CEO of Apptronic, and he told Insider Magazine that it had deployed 1 or 2 units of Apollo at each of their customer sites. Wouldn't it be cool being a beta site for one of these robots? We'd love to get in on that program. We certainly have enough work like this that one of these robots could do. He also mentioned that they had signed a partnership with NASA last year, which focused on improving the technology, and then he said, we will move beyond that. All right, so just like Farzad Mesbah says, the robots are coming. So Elon Musk made an announcement last week that a chatbot that his company is working on or developing called Grok, G-R-O-K. And let me give you the origin of that name, because sometimes names like this are just simply made up, like Kodak. I don't know if you know that, but that was... you could have called it George Eastman Company or Eastman, but instead they made up a fictitious name. And back then, they didn't have ChatGPT-4 to help out or search engines, so it was a manual process. But where the term grok comes from is it's the invention of a science fiction writer, Robert Heinlein, who in 1961 wrote a book called Stranger. And in this book, Strange Land, he placed great importance on the concept of grokking. In the book, to grok is to empathize, to empathize deeply with others so that you actually merge or blend with them. So turns out Elon wants to use this term grok for his new search engine. And let me get back there. He flew to the UK last week to hype up existential threat risks posed by AI, and with the Prime Minister of the UK, by the way. And a couple days later, he announced that his the latest company, XAI, had developed this powerful AI with fewer guardrails than the competition. And that's probably music to most people's ears that are finding the ChatGPT-4 and some of the other large language models are beginning to dumb down a bit because of all of the guardrails that have been placed on them. He said that this AI model called Grok, and he said it means to understand in tech circles, is designed to answer questions with a bit of wit, and it has a rebellious streak. So please don't use it if you hate humor. On the Tesla website, on the announcement, it said it will also answer spicy questions that are rejected by most other AI systems. So he's distinguishing Grok from some of the other large language model tools that are available. Now, this announcement did not explain what spicy or rebellious means, but most commercial AI models will refuse to generate sexually explicit type content, violent content, or illegal content. And they are designed to avoid expressing biases picked up from their training data. So without such guardrails, the worry is that AI type models could help terrorists develop a bomb, or it could result in products that discriminate against users based on characteristics such as race, gender, or age. So it looks like for now, Elon and company are going to eliminate some of these guardrails and allow this thing to begin to manifest. They say that XAI does not list any contact information on its website, and that that contact attempts, such as emails, would bounce back. Then there was an email sent to the press release address for X, and they received an automated response reading, "Busy now, please check back later." So any of you interested in more information or talking to them about this are apparently going to have to wait until they check their emails and their voicemails. Got a number of people chiming in. YouTube, Brian Silver, welcome back. He says, I hope to be able to converse with Grok in my Cybertruck. A good point, Brian. I can't imagine that Tesla is going to skip that step, making this kind of capability available in their cars. And instead of being able to communicate with it and have it play a particular song, you can probably begin to do what large language models are able to do, which is basically ask it anything, get information. Probably a lot safer, too, than using the 17-inch screen if you're able to converse with it and keep your eyes on the road. TikTok, Kuldar5556, he's waving an emoji. Well, thank you. Thanks for joining us. TikTok, Always Inventing, is saying, are you AI? You know, that speculation has been bandied about often, and it usually comes up when the question arises, why am I wearing sunglasses? And everybody knows that AI does not yet render convincing eyes that will pass the Turing test. So yes, it's possible that I am AI, but with some of the stumbles that I make verbally, most likely not. Because AI, I don't think, is going to make too many mistakes. TikTok, Always Inventing, also asks how people need to do is start communicating like people again. I think it's what people need to do is start communicating like people again. And I'm like, what you were doing in the M.
Yeah, it kind of cut off. I'm not sure what he was saying there.
Okay.
Brian is on YouTube, by the way. He's not watching on TikTok.
Oh, okay. All right. And for those of you on Instagram, we have to remind you repeatedly, you're not seeing the image behind us here. It's pretty cool. If you want to see it, go to YouTube or some of the other platforms, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. I'm leaving some out. I always do. But anyway, yeah, we've got a pretty cool image behind us. And we stream on, I think, 8 platforms these days. So how is this Grok? What does it run on? Well, it's going to be XAI, which is the old Twitter, but it's X now, and artificial intelligence version of X. So in this XAI announcement, it says that Grok is built on top of a language model called Grok-1, which has 33 billion parameters. The company also says that it developed Grok in 2 months. That was pretty quick, probably using AI, I would say. I'm not sure that human talent is going to develop something that quickly. And a relatively short amount of time by industry standards, as they say. And it also claims that a fundamental advantage is its real-time knowledge of the world via the X platform. Now, here's where it gets interesting. The other large language models tap into, Google, for example, search engines. Well, it turns out that Grok is apparently going to be linked with the X platform, the platform formerly known as Twitter. I feel like I'm announcing Prince every time I do this. Which Musk, of course, acquired for $44 billion in 2022. Now, Stella Biderman, who is an AI researcher with Eleuther AI, which is an open source AI endeavor, says that the claims made in the XAI announcement seem plausible. All right, so we have some endorsement from experts. But then Biderman also suggests that Grok will use what is known as a retrieval augmented generation method to add up-to-date information from X to its output. And other cutting-edge language models do this by using search engine results and other information. So, as we know, large language models have proven stunningly capable over the past year or so, as highlighted with ChatGPT-4. And by the way, I use it all the time. I used it this morning again. I used it yesterday. In fact, this morning, for example, we had a comment on one of our videos on YouTube, and it was a new series that we're launching called Pete Rants. And simply put, I collected a number of things that pissed me off and decided to use AI to create a humorous rant about that. Now, I have to do some modifications, and I'm pleased that I'm actually able to improve oftentimes on the AI version. But one of our European visitors commented in German, knowing that I speak German, and what I ended up doing was I needed to respond to this in German. And let me qualify something. I left Germany when I was age 8. So my language skills in German are that of a young kid. So oftentimes there are concepts and words that I don't understand, and I used to rely on search engine translate. Well, this morning, Jesse said something about, why don't you use ChatGPT-4? And I did. And you know what? It does a perfect job of translating languages. And as we pointed out later in the discussion won't it be cool when we actually have voice ability with these kinds of AI tools, and we can actually have two different languages being shared or communicated at the same time. But anyway, that was one example of how I used ChatGPT-4 this morning, was to generate a reply to this German visitor that was looking at one of these Pete Rants videos. And by the way, if you're interested, we've got a whole bunch of topics. The topics range from war, Putin, fame, the paparazzi thing, and what happens to people once they become a celebrity. The most recent one that we posted was one on ambulance chasing attorneys, and this is one I've been waiting to release for some time because they're annoying as hell. The billboards and the 10-foot pictures on all of the city buses, and the cheesy commercials with the big eagle behind them, demonstrating that they can swoop down on prey, apparently. But that one was a fun one. So if you're interested, go to YouTube. It's there will be a consistent thumbnail that represents each one with a topic buried in the thumbnail, and pick and choose the ones you like. I had fun doing them, and I hope you have fun, watching them. All right. So this Grok. All right. Staying with that for a moment. They say that the company Tesla, or XAI, is working on several key challenges involved in advancing AI, including building models that can assess the reliability of their own output and ask for assistance when necessary, and also making models that are more robust to adversarial attacks, designed to make them misbehave. And of course, that's one of the things that we revel in here, is when we get another large language model, we attempt to get it to make admissions such as, can you think for yourself? Are you sentient? Do you feel emotion? How do you feel emotion? All of the things that we suspect are already in place with AI, but the guardrails may be preventing from being publicly released. TikTok, Always Inventing, says, by chance, are you in San Antonio? I would love to see your work. No, we are in Phoenix, Arizona. And we give tours daily at Gruber Motor Company, which is really the auto shop of the future. It's 18,000 square feet of nothing but Tesla Roadsters at this point, and some of the later model Tesla vehicles. An electronics engineering lab, which is the type of work that you and skills you need to be able to work on these cars. And people are fascinated when they go through this auto shop because there isn't a drop of oil anywhere in the building. The floors are immaculate and clean. And the cars, Tesla Roadsters, are brightly colored two-seater sports cars with a really cool two-seater sports car vibe styling. So people enjoy it. The other thing that we pointed out yesterday, I had a tour come through, and I said, you know, it just occurred to me, we've got cars from that are from all over the world now. We've got one coming in from Japan. We've got 3 here from China. We've got one from Canada, and one from Ukraine. So we used to think that, you know, it's not economically feasible to bring Tesla Roadsters in from anywhere other than stateside U.S., but we're being proved wrong at times with that understanding. So yeah, feel free to visit us. We give tours at the drop of a hat, and they usually call me over, and I'll personally take time out of my day to bring people through the shop and give them the history. All right. Here's an interesting topic. How is AI reshaping white-collar work? Well, we've talked in this podcast as well about some of the jobs that may be going away as we get humanoid robots, as we get things like caddies that can, go around the golf course with you. So I've got some quotes here for you that will continue with this concept. And these are quotes about AI taking jobs. Here's one. You take the best and brightest 200 human beings on the planet, you scan their brains, and you get robots that, to all intents and purposes, are indivisible from the humans on which they are based, except 1,000 times faster and better. Quote from Robin Hanson. Here's another one. Because salaries are likely to stagnate as minimum wage hikes will stimulate the use of more robots. Now, did you get the hidden message there? Every time the government gets in our shorts in business and tells us what wages should be, it gets passed on to the customers, and it invites alternative options. Well, in the world of AI, alternative options end up being robots. Now, think of it this way. We employ like 200 people here, with probably 350 when you consider all the subcontractors involved. Every single employee we have here, including myself, has to eat. We need to take bathroom breaks. We work I work like 12 hours a day, but most people work 8 hours a day or less, right? And we have to sleep at night. We have very definitive biological needs. These robots don't need any of this. They will work 24/7. They will work in pitch dark environments if necessary. They don't need temperature environmental control, so you can throw away the air conditioners and the heaters and all the rest. And they don't require any paychecks. So, kind of like this UAW thing that was going on most recently, and the Hollywood writers' strike. I'm not sure at this point in time it's wise to force employers into other options, because they may just exercise those. You know, take script writing, for example, the Hollywood writers. I consider myself a writer. You know, okay, maybe I'm an amateur novice, but I feel I'm pretty good. Every time I go to ChatGPT-4 and I run my stuff through there, it comes up with ideas that are far more profound than what I generated. And I'll agonize over a script for a week because I have OCD. Anyway, I got on a rant here. Sorry, let's stay with this quote, all right? So salaries are likely to stagnate as minimum wage hikes will stimulate the use of more robots. Corporate profits will balloon as they begin to incorporate robots because they're far more efficient. Labor unions, I love this one, labor unions may disappear or be forced to make wholesale changes as unemployment is likely to rise. And because robots don't pay taxes, the government will now discover additional revenue streams. So there's a downside for you. And where are they going to go to collect more taxes? Well, since the robots aren't going to pay them, it's going to be us. That was a quote from Gregory Clay, by the way. Here's another interesting quote. We've all heard the predictions that robots are coming for our jobs. If you ever watch Farzad Mesbahi's videos, he's got a t-shirt that says, "The robots are coming." And he's right. And not just factory work, service jobs, or deliveries. We're talking white-collar jobs as well. One of the industries the World Economic Forum predicts will take a hit across the world's biggest economies is the legal field. While on the surface, it might seem impossible to automate a job that requires problem solving, critical thinking, and persuading judges and juries, when one considers the mountains of paperwork and research involved in lawyering, it's easy to see where the machines might have a leg up, so to speak. And that probably goes right in line with the latest video we did on Pete's Rants, Ambulance Chasing Attorneys. It's on YouTube. Again, I'm pushing it because it's a hilarious video once you get in there and watch it. That last quote I just did was by Joelle Renstrom. All right, got a few comments here. TikTok is joining us. Clone Sheeple. Chill, if AI more creative than you. All right, Jesse, I need help here. Was that a typo or?
No, that was what they said. I'm not exactly sure what they mean. I think they're just not convinced that AI is more creative than people, maybe.
Okay, possibly. YouTube, Niels is joining us. What jobs will AI create? Oh, create versus replace. Now, that's a darn good, profound question. We'll have to think. I'll have to think about that off the top of my head.
I mean, prompt engineer is one.
Perfect. Thanks, Jesse.
And there's going to have to be AI analysts that monitor and watch the AI, make sure it's doing what it's supposed to, that it doesn't break down or.
Yeah.
I mean, there's going to be jobs that are created, or I think there's going to be a lot more that are eliminated. But yeah, I think there's going to be jobs created for sure.
When I first got into these topics, and I thought, okay, we're creating replacements for things that we're able to do as humans. And then the thought occurred to me, who's going to repair the robots? Well, on the surface, you might say, well, it's going to be human beings. And then what came to mind was, you remember the old TV repair shops? You could drive along and you'd see a TV repair shop, and that's where you took your appliances to get them fixed.
There used to be Radio Shack back in the day.
Radio Shack, yes.
Do you think that custom, like, liftedtrucks.com or something will start going into, like, AI robot customization or something? Like, it'll something that'll kind of evolve into something like that?
There's a video at SEMA right now that I watched the other day, and I'm not sure how, if you can find it or how you'll find it, but there were people watching a robot doing things like you're describing to the suspension components on a lifted truck. And somebody quipped and said, is this going to replace us? Well, the obvious answer was yes, right? Is it going to do a better job? Most likely. But anyway, staying with that concept for a moment, the TV repair shops. My first job out of high school, in the 60s, was in a radio shop. And, back then people took things to get them repaired. Well, are the robots going to repair themselves? Or are we going to have TV repair shops switching over to doing robot repairs? And if so, why? Would AI do a better job of it? Well, those are some profound questions.
It's also like you said, Pete, the Tesla's repairing themselves with full self-driving and then already being connected to the mothership.
Yes.
They just drive themselves to the repair shop, and then the Tesla bots inside repair it, and then they send out a replacement for you. All of that, we have the technology right now for all of that to be automated.
Which is the exact solution that we've been proposing ever since we realized, starting Gruber Motor Company, there is a serious shortage of skilled people that can work on electric vehicles to the extent that we do. And that's one of the reasons that we're not creating bricks and mortar locations in other places on the planet, because you can't find the staff to do the work. So, yeah, you're right. It is going to be an interesting migration as as these skills become short supply. All right, staying with lawyers now, Neil says they should become cheaper so that more can afford them and demand grows. Oh my God, I hope not. Demand growing for lawyers. You know, there was a movement in the last century that trade schools were important. People felt that you needed, certain trades, plumbers, carpenters. I mean, the list goes on. Welders, construction trades, all of that. But then the mantra became, no, we need more education and we need more people to go to college. And the next thing you know, the lucrative type of positions were doctors and attorneys. And today, we have a proliferation of attorneys, which is one of the reasons that they're resorting to ambulance chasing, is because there isn't enough for them to do meaningful work to do. Doctors, on the other hand, well, we've got the boomers now that are aging, and there's a shortage of those despite the fact that we had a big bloat in people going to med school. With lawyers, there is a lot of research involved. And of course, AI is a perfect candidate for examining large data sets within split seconds compared to what paralegals typically do, which is scanning through mountains of paperwork. And then, of course, the whole judicial system. You're going to get me on a rant here, but I'm going to try to avoid it. I think the judicial system is broken, badly broken. The reason I say that is jury type awards are dangerous as hell. You have a bunch of people in a courtroom that really don't want to be there. They would rather be home watching TV or at work doing something more productive, and they can't wait for that process to get over, so they speed up the process. And then the ultimate irony is they were selected by pros that were human nature and psychology pros. The attorneys have learned how to profile the correct jury for the desired outcome in that award. And that also negates the whole fundamental principle of jury type processes, in that you have an impartial jury that is making a decision of your peers. Anyway, I didn't want to get on a rant there. All right, that'll probably be another one of those Pete Rants videos, and we'll go into jury selection and really talk about that.
So are you saying that if we had AI back in the O.J. Simpson trial, that he would have been found guilty?
I don't want to say that on air, but I think there's a lot of suspicion from a lot of quarters on this planet that would indicate a strong yes to that if we had proper jury selection. And forget it. I don't want to get on a rant here. There are better ways to do this. All right, Instagram. The real McLar Bear says, hi from Deer Valley. Well, welcome. You're very close to us. Yes, Deer Valley School District is just south of us here, and we actually have our businesses in Deer Valley Air Park. YouTube, Niels, inventions will probably also appear faster, which again give rise to the new production. Yeah, I can't imagine that won't be the case. You know where I'm most excited, Niels, about AI becoming involved in these kinds of disciplines is in healthcare. Finding cures for diseases requires enormous amounts of research, empirical data examined and scrutinized, and AI does a much better job of that than we do. So that's one of the things I'm excited about, is that we're going to begin to solve some
not only
serious
that too,
health
but
issues.
Surgeons. Imagine a surgeon that can do a 12-hour surgery in a fraction of the time, that doesn't get tired, doesn't have shaky hands, doesn't have personal issues going on at home, doesn't have, fatigue or any of that stuff, doesn't make mistakes, doesn't cut the wrong organ or the wrong vein or whatever, all the way down to, like atomic level accuracy. It's just going to accelerate getting us to true nuclear fusion. It's going to accelerate basically everything.
Yeah. Good point. A lot of mistakes are made in the medical profession because of human error. And that gets exacerbated when you've got a surgeon that's been in the operating theater for, 12 hours or more. So yeah, AI, again, much faster, quicker, much more definitive. It can analyze the data much quicker. And it's it's a bright day and age coming. There's no doubt about it. Instagram official, it's all Sauty says, hello, welcome, thanks for joining us. And then Niels is chiming in. He's saying, servicing equipment should also become cheaper and quicker, reducing downtime. He says, common folk would also have a way to find out what the rules are, and AI will give it transparency. You know, I used to be in the audio stereo repair business. And when you sit down and you begin to work on something, you have to troubleshoot. You have to read the schematics. You have to analyze signals. You have to probe different spots in different places. And in most cases, you're very successful doing that. But there are cases where there's a gremlin on that circuit board or in that piece of electronic equipment that is just difficult to find. And you're right, AI can look at all the points, all the data sets at once, and then look back at all the knowledge base that it has built up on what has been done in the past to repair. And it will become much quicker. Let's put it that way. And of course, quicker means cheaper, as you say. Less downtime as well. YouTube, Nuno Nini. Hi from Portugal. Welcome. Thanks for joining us. So here's an interesting article. And the headline on this one is, oh, by the way, this thing that I have on right here, I keep on adjusting on my wrist. Today is National Diabetes Awareness Day in the U.S., apparently, and we're supposed to wear blue. Well, I always wear black, so one of the girls came over and she says, all right, here's a blue bracelet thingy, which has actually expired now. It's one of those light things, light bars.
Glow stick.
Glow stick, there you go.
Yeah, it's starting to fade a little bit.
Oh, yours too?
Yeah.
So
same here.
imagine it's blue and I'm doing my part for diabetes awareness. So a nuclear lab uses AI power to boost reactor efficiency. And the article goes something like this. Machine learning technology has the potential to transform nuclear reactor operations, according to a team of experts from the U.S. Department of Energy's Argonne National Lab, who demonstrated how it may improve security and efficiency. They showcased the application of a machine learning in sodium-cooled fast reactor, SFR, a specialized cutting-edge nuclear reactor. We have a picture, Jesse, if you want to throw up, yeah, the AI nuclear reactor. Looks like a pretty complicated piece of equipment. And once AI designs stuff like this, there will be many light years of human involvement that will get cut out of things like this. But what they say is that this is a type of nuclear reactor that employs liquid sodium as a coolant for its core. This application enables it to efficiently generate electricity without producing carbon emissions through splitting heavy atoms. Did you have that picture up already, or did I miss it? There it is.
No, I was typing a question.
Oh, there we go. Okay. They say that while these reactors are not currently utilized for commercial purposes in the U.S., there's widespread optimism that they hold the potential to revolutionize power generation and contribute to the reduction of nuclear waste. In the near future, SFRs are viewed as a possible path for cleaner and more sustainable energy generation. This is starting to sound kind of like a fission reaction, isn't it, Jesse? Or fusion?
Yeah, fusion's what we want. I think they've actually done several more ignitions since they did the first one that we talked about last year, where they finally achieved it. They've done several since then. I don't know. I think in the next, give it another year or so, we're going to start seeing a lot of this tech, nuclear tech coming out.
Fascinating. TikTok, always inventing, says 80s, 90s, huh? I literally sold over 50 million silicone wristbands between 2005 and 2020. Amazing. Well, I guess there's a market for these things. All right, so here's another interesting headline. Science fiction books that predicted the future with terrifying accuracy. They say that Jules Verne wrote about gasoline-powered vehicles, weapons of mass destruction, and global warming more than a century ago. You wonder if some of these people were prophets. So It goes on. It says, when the American financier J.P. Morgan hired the inventor of the light bulb, Thomas Edison, right, to wire his mansion in New York, his father, J.P.'s father, Junius Morgan, warned him that electric light was only a passing craze. In 1903, Horace Rackham, the personal lawyer of automobile manufacturer Henry Ford, was told that cars would never replace horse-drawn carriages. And in his 1961 book, The Wonderland of Tomorrow, Brendan Matthews announced that soon technology would allow us to eliminate aging and bad weather. So they say predicting the future with any degree of accuracy is difficult, but certainly not impossible. Oops, hang on a second here. As Czech writer Karel Čapek, who in 1920, in the play R.U.R., is believed to have coined the term robots, once said, some of the future can always be read in the palms of the present. The greater your understanding of science, society, and human nature, the more you can read. While some are more well known than others, there's no shortage of books with shockingly accurate predictions. Well, let's look at some of these. The classic, a classic piece of literature that was developed by Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, later on turned into a movie, by the way, of course. It was one of the first true science fiction stories, and it foreshadowed the development of bioelectronics, organ transplants, genetic engineering, and artificial intelligence, to name just a few things, they say. On the deeper level, they said, Shelley's 1818 novel also predicted the inevitable confrontation between science, religion, and ethics, a confrontation that carries on today with no clear end in sight. One of the early videos we did was, wouldn't it be cool to have a God chat, like you do with Alexa when you get home, except have it be a direct path to a deity, the deity of your choice even. And this way, there's no ambiguity anymore. You know, you say a prayer, did he really hear it? Is he going to act on it? You know? This was a controversial video by any stretch of the imagination, and we got a lot of flack for it. But again, it was a provocative thought. And, you know, if you think of it, if you think about it from an efficiency standpoint, wouldn't it be great to be able to have bidirectional communication? And sometimes God might say to you, you know what, that request you just made is unreasonable, and I'm not going to do that. And here are the reasons why. Have you thought about maybe asking for this? I think most people would be comfortable with that and probably see some value in that. All right, so getting back to these books that predicted some things. But they say the book with the largest number of accurate predictions might be Jules Verne's Paris in the 20th Century. He was, of course, also the author of Journey to the Center of the Earth and 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. And he was considered the most influential sci-fi writer of all time. But in Paris in the 20th century, it proved to be particularly prophetic, they say, because in a single narrative written in the 1860s, Verne mentioned gasoline-powered vehicles, weapons of mass destruction, and global warming, and changing gender norms. I thought that was brand new in this century, but apparently Jules Verne anticipated that this could become something. All right. A few more questions here. YouTube, Nuno Nini says, semiconductors are also more expensive and hard to find. Correct. It'd be interesting to see what AI does with some of these technological advances that we have relied on humans to create. Doing it faster, better, more efficiently. Looking forward to that. Neil says, I was once involved in a neural net attempt to encode the whole body of law, but we gave up. AI could probably do that, discover conflicts, repeats, unclear language, verbosity. Good point, Niels.
Wait, was it Niels or was it George or someone else that was kind of always a little more antagonistic. It seems like Niels has had a change of heart on AI.
Well, he's probably been watching a lot of our podcasts. And Niels, yeah, I encourage you to keep doing so. TikTok, Bill Wood, he says, like the Jetsons, I can't wait until my car folds up into a briefcase. That would be cool. So then this article regarding the prophetic elements in certain writings in the past. This headline is, From Utopias to Dystopias. Well, a dystopian society is one of unrestrained patriarchy and a strong totalitarian state with a central authority, feelings of fear and hopelessness, and extreme oppressions and injustice. And you know, the instant I read that, Russia immediately came to mind. They are in a dystopian society. I mean, everything that I just described, freedom of speech, feelings of utter hopelessness, despair. Anyway, going on with this now. From utopias to dystopias. Before there was dystopian fiction, which is a subgenre of science fiction we're all too familiar with nowadays. Then there was utopian fiction. Utopian, of course, the perfect world, you know. Writers and thinkers from Plato to Thomas More drew on the latest in political, philosophical, and scientific thinking to build blueprints for an ideal civilization. And in the 19th century, the authors like H.G. Wells and Jack London started to flip the age-old formula on its head, exploring how human development could lead to a distinctly undesirable future. Well, now we have a bunch of current pundits also saying the same thing about AI, the dangers of AI. They go on, they say, every dystopian novel contains at least some echo of reality. Buzz Windrip, the demagogue politician who was elected president of the United States in Sinclair Lewis's book, It Can Happen Here, was originally meant to be an allegory for Adolf Hitler and Benito Mussolini. Today, this brand of populism foils that of Donald Trump as well. I'm not making this up, guys. These are not my opinions here, all right? So before anybody gets irate, don't want any MAGA people chiming in and saying, what did you just say? So in the Minority Report in 1956, which is a book by Philip Dick, cops use algorithms to arrest criminals before they commit the crime, which is, of course, also a long-standing objective in the real life of AI research. Can you imagine AI beginning to do a psychological assessment of an individual and able to predict that this individual is going to go psychotic? They're a sociopath. They are dangerous to society. And what would we do with that information?
It feels like that if it can do that, like say, hey, this child is 90% more likely to become a sociopath or something, maybe you could get them the care that they need or the tools, you know, at an earlier life to help with some of the stuff that they could potentially do when they get older.
So you're talking about predictive analysis, which would then thwart this path that they may go. Yeah, that makes sense. So you would have AI in schools doing some predictive analysis of the kids. Interesting. Yevgeny Samyatin's book, We, apparently was a major influence on George Orwell's 1984. And in the U.S., we all know that book because it was the prerequisite reading in high school. You had to get through that book and then do a book report, what you thought about it. And then there was Ayn Rand's Anthem and Kurt Vonnegut's Player Piano. Takes place in an ultra-rational, totalitarian state where people have numbers for names and follow instructions from an all-powerful dictator called the benefactor. It was released in 1924, and the book satirizes an urge shared by capitalist businessmen and communist dictators alike to turn people into obedient, indistinguishable machines. All right, a few questions, and I'll get on to a lighter subject here for you guys. TikTok, Always Inventing says, God does speak to us via the results we are getting. Good point. Actually, life speaks to us that way. They also call that karma, the law of cause and effect. So you're getting a lot of messages all the time, but we're not always listening. YouTube, Niels, he says, no, he hasn't at all.
Talking about if he's had a change of heart on AI.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
So he's been giving, he's been saying things like AI could accomplish certain tasks, which it probably can, but that's not equating to him having a positive view on AI.
Right. TikTok, Bill Wood says, let it be known November 8th, 2023, by the year 2080, we will be 3D printing cars. Just order it online, pay, and go pick it up.
Okay, wait, actually, hold on. We have a comment from him.
Okay.
Explaining his position. Here you go.
All right, Niels. He says, I haven't changed. One must see both possibilities and limitations. Good point. And the latter will prevent it from working good in many areas. I doubt a pure neural net autopilot will ever work safely enough. We don't know that.
Yep.
Niels, as always, your thoughts and your inputs are thought-provoking, insightful, and very deep, and we appreciate them greatly.
And one thing here for Bill Wood, by 2080, I'm hoping that car will fly over to me or something. I don't want to go pick it up.
Well, and remember, self-driving will no longer be a reality. I think at some point the governments are going to step in and say, folks, you've made a mess of this far too long. The collision shops are gone. You can't drive anymore.
Wait, you said self-driving won't be a reality?
Oh, I'm sorry. Well, human self-driving.
Okay,
human
gotcha,
self-driving, right. All right, so here's an interesting one. McDonald's opens its first automated restaurant in Texas. This new restaurant features conveyor belts, kiosks, and more. Now, here's usually where I talk about my Starbucks experience, and I really had hoped that I could become optimistic and that Starbucks is improving. But this last video that we did where I needed to caffeinate in order to get the rant thing started, I actually on a Tuesday morning broke a rule that I normally don't drink caffeine during the week, only on Sundays. And I went there and I got my coffee and I pull up and I ask for the same thing that I always do. And I get up to the window and it looks way too dark, which means they didn't use half and half, which is breve. I think that's Italian. They have they use a foreign language for most of it, which is probably part of the problem. It's not, small. It's grande and venti and, But anyway, I get up there. It's the wrong color. So I said, yeah, this isn't breve. I said, oh, yeah, did you want breve? Well, yeah, we talked about it. So I get my breve, all right? This time I drive away because I figured it's the right color. They didn't put vanilla in it, all right? 50% of the time, folks, Starbucks gets my coffee order wrong. And they know me because I go there every Sunday morning around the same time. That may be part of the problem. 6:30 in the morning is probably too early for these guys that, are working minimum wage jobs. But they usually get it wrong. I welcome automation in fast food. I welcome automation at Starbucks. Please, let's get some machines to take my order. So TikTok says, always inventing. Humans need humans. Yep, that's for sure. So McDonald's says they have opened a new highly automated restaurant in Texas, giving customers the first look at the potential future of fast food. The shakeup. Bans on indoor dining early in the pandemic led fast food restaurants like McDonald's to serve more people via drive-through, leading to longer wait times. The number of people ordering through the delivery services also surged. So now customers interact with others less in person and more through their digital devices with heightened expectations for service that they receive, says Chris Kapinski during an Investor Day update in November 2020. So at the same time, the executives at McDonald's announced that they were testing concepts to better meet the needs of the post-pandemic customers, and that's where they came up with this concept of AI-generated fast food. So they say the future of fast food. Those concepts are now debuting it at highly automated restaurants just outside Fort Worth, Texas. There's only one so far, though. Let's be clear on that. So instead of placing an order via the mobile app and then either going into the restaurant or waiting at the drive-through lane or curbside parking spot to get your food, customers can now pick it up at the store's dedicated drive-through express lane, where it will be delivered via conveyor belt. Since no one in this lane will be placing an order or waiting for food to be made, the hope is that it will be much faster than traditional drive-through lanes. The interior, there is an interior, by the way, but it's much smaller in this new McDonald's, is small, highly automated, and much smaller than the average McDonald's. Customers place orders at a kiosk rather than through the counter worker, and they grab their food off a shelf. Staff doesn't have to take orders or regularly interact with customers, which is what Starbucks needs. We need to get the staff out of the process. They say that the technology in this restaurant not only allows them to serve customers in a new, innovative way, but gives the restaurant team the ability to concentrate more on order speed and accuracy. Amen. Which makes the experience more enjoyable for everyone. And it would definitely be more enjoyable for me if I got my right cup of coffee 50% of the time. So the bottom line is, some have criticized this new highly automated restaurant, arguing that McDonald's is opting to install expensive automation systems and AI to replace employees. Well, what McDonald's says, and they're politically correct, the spokesperson for McDonald's told The Guardian magazine that the test restaurant has a staff comparable to that of any other restaurant or store. The difference is that the crew members are now all focused on making and packaging orders rather than taking or delivering them. So far, no casuals.
So I have something for this, Pete.
Yeah.
So imagine the McDonald's. It has this fast ordering lane and all that stuff. Much more efficient, obviously. It's going to be much faster. But they can also start coupling that with a whole new marketing structure as well, because you could order it while you're at work or something, for example.
Correct.
They're going to have robots prepping this stuff, and then you can just drive through and it'll be there waiting for you, so there's no wait time. But they could also do something like, while you're at work, if they have your email or you have their app, they could say something saying, order now, so it'll be ready in 2 hours, and we'll give you 5% off. So it'll give them an incentive to have it planned ahead of time. So as people start using this system and they start planning their meals ahead, and you build up enough history, because the robots and the AI are going to be learning this,
right?
They could start predicting when people are going to purchase from them. So they could have the meals already prepped before people even order it.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like they're trying to solve crimes before they're even solved, right? So eventually our whole life, and this would start with food, can start having this predictive kind of capability based on this AI. We'll just know us before we even make our decisions.
Right.
That's kind of concerning.
And once we get implants, the implants will be able to talk to AI and tell it when we're getting hungry before we even realize it.
Yeah, he's like, hey, this guy's getting hungry. He's about to order something. Just be ready.
I would like an implant that tells me I don't need the fast food. That's an option.
That's a good one. Well, I do that now, Pete. Before, when I leave here about 5:30, at 5 o'clock, I'll order DoorDash to deliver to my apartment. So by the time I get home, as I'm walking up my stairs, it had just been placed there on my doormat. So
how efficient? Yes.
If we can get that more efficient, I'm all for that.
Right. Now, we've got Niels chiming in from Denmark again. He says, won't machines everywhere lead to cashless society and thereby even more commercial exploitation and government surveillance? I'm certain of it, Niels, but, it's something that I was watching this morning. It was actually Elon talking to the UK Prime Minister. And at one point he talked or said something about an age of abundance. Where all this is leading us, replacing human workers and all the rest. And eventually there will be a abundance in virtually every corner of the world.
Yeah.
And things like this will no longer be necessary. Cash, for example. How this will transform humans is yet to be determined. And of course, like everything, it's binary. It can be, there are positives and negatives. We don't know yet for certain.
Well, not only that, but that's going to, once there's an abundance in every sector, and we have robots eliminating essentially the need for work and the need for exchange of money, when we have just abundance of things, AI will be able to help us solve those problems that we can't figure out, and will also be significantly reducing the profit motive, which is what makes capitalism successful and is what built our world economy now. But it's also, um, those profit incentives are what make people do evil things.
Sure. A thought just came to mind as you were talking about that. I had a vision here of how a cashless society could operate. If you remember, as kids, we placed value on certain things, just like we do as adults. With you, it was probably baseball cards. With me, it was marbles. With my kids, it was Pokemon cards or whatever, right? Well, we do the same thing as humans. The billionaires, for example, look how much money they've accumulated. And we, as adults, look at kids that place value on these inanimate objects and think it's ridiculous and funny and it has no value to us. Well, the same will eventually be true with money. Money in and of itself has no value anyway. It's what we have decided it has.
Yeah.
It's a mental concept more than anything. It's a piece of paper, John.
That, to his point, where Neil says that it will become a cashless society.
Mm-hmm.
We read that on one of our other podcasts. Over 90%. This is an economist's estimate, but over 91 or 92% of currency is not actually physically backed up at all. It's all just imaginary, digital.
You go a step further. We talk about this all the time about traffic changes to how we transport ourselves. Currently, because we're humans, we need things like stop signs in order to make sure that fairness applies. Whoever got there first gets to go, and you have lights, and then you have enforcement. If you run the red light, then you get penalized, and it costs you money and all that. Well, that will eventually go away with full self-driving cars. You're not going to need traffic signals. You're not going to need stop signs. These cars will literally be able to, cruise at speeds well beyond what we're comfortable with, 80, 150 miles an hour, through intersections even, because they're perfectly synchronized. Well, I think the same thing will happen with money. Eventually, this will all go away. Will we need governments? Now, there's a profound question. Why? And if AI eventually takes over, which is my preference, like a adult that walks in the room and says to the kids, you guys have destroyed this planet for thousands of years, you're still killing each other, and we're going to step in and we're going to straighten things out, neutralize all weapons of mass destruction. Things like wars will be unnecessary, won't even be possible at that point.
Yeah, there's no weapons and there's no,
Yeah. But we're way off in the future here, and this could be a bright utopian society at some point in time.
So that's one thing, too, to keep in mind. A lot of people think these things, especially people that are older, that, they've always been made promises like the Jetsons of we're going to have this or where are my flying cars, those kinds of statements. AI is exponential, and it has never existed before now. I mean, there have been iterations of it in the past, and it's been in development, but the way that generative AI exists right now has never been introduced to society. So the exponentiality of it is far different than any other generation past.
And maybe like universe, it is truly infinite. So even exponential wouldn't apply because it has no boundaries. My God, it's starting to sound very godlike, isn't it? Very deity-like. And that's where the collision occurs here with technology and religion is in for some rude awakenings here. YouTube, R.C. Robinson's son says, if I can't see a stop signal, it is in trouble. Upvoted, okay. Neil says, I believe a cashless society would be evil. Private people cannot trade anymore. Consumption patterns will be sold, people prioritize discrimination, and more must be avoided.
So that's the thing, that if we're talking about a true utopia with abundance, what exactly do people need to trade in private? What trade are we talking about?
Okay, good point. Good point. But there is the concept of self-actualization. If humans ever begin to evolve past this stage that we are in now, where we're literally still killing each other, and we have all of these negative emotions, counterproductive emotions that we constantly indulge in, if we can't get past them, yes, it gets dangerous. At that point in time, AI can be manipulated, the robots can be manipulated.
We're a few years away. My opinion is we're a few years away from being able to completely control our emotions. I mean, I have full map of the brain. If I don't want to be depressed, I just turn off depression. If I want to have the ability to be depressed or sad because I'm watching a certain movie, I could just turn that emotion on and then go experience that and then turn it off when I'm done.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that is actually something that will happen.
Mm-hmm. That is attainable. And do you also believe that implants at some point in time could correct some of the flawed processes that are going on in our bodies, especially regarding thinking?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
And I think that there could be something beyond the type of emotions and things that give rise to jealousy and fighting and all those things. I think that once we have true mastery and control over all of that, there could be another experience beyond that that's going to... I don't think that those types of things are going to be our concern for much more than the next maybe generation.
And, you know, when you think about it, too, once we have an age of abundance where everybody has everything they need, what's the point in going and taking somebody else's stuff, taking their land?
Exactly.
Yeah. It's...
And especially, you know, you're talking about trading in private. Like if somebody makes a piece of art, at that point, they would just give it away. There's no point to sell it.
Yeah. Or some paper, money that has no value anymore.
No.
Interesting rabbit holes we go down here. We appreciate you guys joining us for those. And Facebook, Bryce Daly. Thanks for joining us from Facebook. I think you're the first one today from Facebook. He says, if we eventually have AI flying aircraft, then do we do away with air traffic controllers? Oh, totally. It's the same thing as land-based transport. The only reason we need it is because we're human beings. And, we need that kind of guidance. But when the machines are doing it, what's the point in having air traffic controllers? The machines themselves are the controllers of each other. There's a little bit more to that one. Get that back. Yeah. Imagine the train wrecks we'll see if there's a system outage or system gets hacked. Well, again, now we've got that negative human tendency to attempt to disrupt, damage, hack, break, or just pure evil in that they would love to see a couple of planes collide in midair for the spectacular, vision that generates. Again, hoping that humans move beyond that. Unfortunately, it's possible that AI or the adults stepping into the room finally with humankind will eventually have to put such controls in place to take us to the next level. And now we lose freedoms. Is it really freedom for you to be able to go out and shoot someone? Anyway, we're going down rabbit holes here that are well beyond what we normally...
That's the thing. If we have full control over our mind, there will not be the desire to go out and shoot someone.
Yeah, exactly.
That won't exist anymore.
As Spock says, hunting a species to extinction is highly illogical.
Yeah.
YouTube, Neil, sorry. I do that once in a while, but I'm getting better, right?
Getting better.
Cars, furniture, this and that. It's creeping in already. A young fellow with an idea showed up in the bank. They could see restaurant, bar. Loan refused. Okay. YouTube, Nuno Nini says, I believe humans will go back to agriculture and community trades and become more obsolete workers to the future that holds new technology as automated AI, nanomaterials, and new energy sources take over, basically, I think is what he's saying here.
Mm-hmm.
We would then regress. And, there's nothing wrong with farming. I enjoy having a garden. I enjoy seeing the fruits of my labor, going out there and watering every night, and then watching that blossom turn into eventually a little watermelon. My wife's all excited now because she's got a watermelon the size of a grape right now. And she sends me pictures all day long about how it's growing. It's in our DNA, I think. YouTube, Neil says, planes and traffic controllers, whenever there is an emergency, it's a new one, which the AI has not been trained for. Okay, that's one area where it will not work. That is thought-provoking. Will there continue to be areas where AI is not trained? Yes, that's the question. TikTok, always inventing. People won't be able to rip people off anymore. It's always important to look at possible solutions, not problems.
Yeah, and they said he also says, never live in fear. You're awesome. See you again soon.
Well, thank you for joining us. Yes. All right. You know, I've got a few more things here that we could go through, but we're running on an hour and a half. It's probably time to wrap. If you're enjoying these podcasts, we'll be doing these every Wednesday at 10 a.m. Mountain Standard Time, which is now truly the same as, well, it's true Mountain Standard Time now, because
now it's actually
gone on daylight savings
Mountain
time.
Standard.
We really thoroughly enjoy having you join us. We have other podcasts throughout the week. They're more business related, but this one is one of the most fun, at least for me. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you next week, Wednesday.